Our session is being moderated by Mr. Pranshu Sharma, who is Associate Consultant HR Analytics at MetLife. We also have a panel of speakers associated with us from eminent organizations. We have Ms. Monica Marva. She is the University Hiring Lead, Asia Pacific and Japan at HR. She is also the lead at NCR Corporation. We have Ms. Khalid Raza, who is the Speaker Associate Director Talent at EY. We have Ms. Monica Lohani. She is the Senior HR Leader. And we have Ms. Pragya Singh, who is the Manager HR at Nitya Infotech. Now, without losing any time, I now hand over the session to Mr. Pranshu Sharma to take the session forward and take you through the details of the session.
Sure.
Over to you, Pranshu.
So thank you, Payal. Thank you, for the lovely introduction. So good morning, everyone. So, before we start, so, as a HR professional, normally what happens, a lot of questions comes to our mind, what is recruitment and talent acquisition all about, how we can do budgeting, how we can source a candidate, in an organization and so on and so forth. So, before we, open the forum for our panelists, so let's do a, quick survey, just to check the pulse. What do you think about, in terms of uh, whether, a whether HR recruitment is a, back-end process, or it's a support function, or is a core HR business. So, to record your answer in a survey, you need to go to www.menti.com. Then there you will see a code which you need to type 79827325, and you can record your responses. All right, so looking at the score so far, so 50% population say that it is a support function in an organization, and 50% of the population says that it's not a support function in an organization. So now, to get more clarity, on these kind of questions, which normally as an HR professional you might have. So I, open the forum for our, panelists who are experienced in these domains and maybe can help to understand, these better. All right, so thank you, Nirpesh. So I would, first question I would like to ask, from Pragya, as a HR, as I said, as a HR professional, normally it comes to our mind whether talent acquisition and recruitment is same, or it is altogether different, or whether, organization, thinks, differently. So if you can just throw some lights on this question.
Sure, Pranshu. Thanks for the lovely introduction, Payal, and for a great start, Pranshu. And I'm not surprised to see the answer of this particular question, which talks about whether recruitment is a support function or not. Ideally, if you're not into the talent acquisition space of a company, and if you look at from the perspectives of the others, it looks like that only. However, that is not the case. And coming back to our question about the recruitment and the talent acquisition, recruitment is a part of talent acquisition. However, if I look at the talent acquisition, it's a long going strategy followed by a company. Let's say that a company is looking forward to start a new business vertical. So they have to plan and strategize the complete manpower they needed prior to go ahead and start that vertical of the business. However, if I look at the recruitment, so let's say a team of mine happens to have 5 team members, out of which 2 have planned out to resign, and I have to immediately fulfill that position. That's what recruitment is all about. So recruitment can happen on an immediate basis and with a particular timeline. However, if I talk about talent acquisition, it is a complete strategy that goes on. Few factors that can be a part of the talent acquisition is the planning and the strategy. So it needs a lot of planning. Unlike recruitment, talent acquisition requires a deeper look at the nature of your business. So until unless your business understanding is not clear, you might not know that what kind of a future understanding of the business is required. Let's say we are looking out to start a new technology into the place. So how exactly can we do that? That's the basic difference that I feel is between the talent acquisition and the recruitment part.
Oh, thank you so much, Pragya, for throwing some lights on this. I hope that it will give more clarity to our audience also. So as you clearly mention about that, the planning is more important. So when you talk about planning, so of course budgeting is also come, which is also plays a very important. So here I would like to ask this question from Khalid, that what do you think that budgeting is very important and plays an important role, and how should we do it?
As Pragya was mentioning, and thank you so much for having me here. Pragya alluded to the talent acquisition and recruitment. While we can terminalize it in a way which we want, budgeting and planning is integral to any aspect, whether it's about throwing a party in your house, or whether it's about planning a trip, or whether it's about creating a vertical, or just hiring an individual. So you need to have your plans in place and your budgets in place for you to understand what is it that you want to hire, how much capacity do you have, and how much freedom do you have to move up and down within that capacity. So sometimes you create budgets based on a lot of understanding of what needs to be hired. When we look at talent, there are multiple ways talent can be generated. One is, of course, you can buy the talent from outside, which is what we call talent acquisition or recruitment. The second is, can you grow the talent? And again, to know whether you can grow the talent, you need to have a landscape internally to understand what skills do I have internally, which I can raise, take it to the next level. And that's where learning and development comes into picture. So budgeting happens at a different level to figure out what is going to be the outcome and what state the organization wants to be. As Pragya was talking about that creating a vertical, so first thing to understand, how many people do I require for that vertical, at what levels, and and what is the cost of acquiring those talent from the market. And then you have to come back and see, if that is run over a period of a quarter or 2 quarters, what is going to be the incremental cost that I need to bear with. So all of these factors go into it, and the stronger your planning is, the more clarity you will have about your budgets, and you'll also be able to create those milestones that you need to achieve, because you're not going to get 100 people in a day. You're going to get those people in different time zones, sorry, different time frames, and that's going to play a pivotal role. Last bit, we need to also factor in what is the market reality, because we may think that we're going to get a specific skill from the market at a specific point in time, but the dynamics change, like what Corona has done. So organizations need to be very nimble and need to continuously revisit those plans so that they are not plans made in the previous year deployed in the current year. It's the plan which is revolving and evolving as we move ahead.
Okay. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much, for throwing some lights and, provided this meaningful insights. So as you clearly talked about it, so I think lot of things actually, comes to the mind, because when you do budgeting, planning, and now when it comes to hire a right candidate in an organization, so, then we start focusing on hiring a, candidate. So there are different ways, as an organization, we, do a campus hiring, we, approach, uh, consultants for that, we look for online, we go to LinkedIn and other uh, websites. So in these days, as during post pandemic and everything, so I would like to ask this question from Monica Marwa, that in these times, that why companies are especially focusing on in the campus hiring, you know and rather than they are approaching to the consultants. And what do you think, that why it is more important and how it is useful?
Thank you so much, Pranshu, for asking this question. I think university hiring being a core part of recruitment, and it is also one of the core reason for ensuring that we save cost, because while we hire university grads, they add to our baseline, which is a stronger baseline, and the moment we have a stronger baseline, it will help us move the hierarchy upwards in the right direction. So why do organizations really focus on hiring campus hires with a lot of activities? We need to plan a lot of stuff, collaborate with universities, have mentors and everybody in place. Why do organizations want to take that many efforts? Is basically to ensure that we have a strong branding of our organization, because millennials are our future, and they understand that, yes, this is an organization which is doing good for us. That means they have a strong roots altogether. That's one piece of it. Plus, we save a lot of costs. So if we talk about hiring a consultant, the tenure of a consultant is dependent on the work we give it, and it does not have a stability altogether. They kind of move on between 6 months to a year duration, because they are looking out for a permanent job. versus hiring an intern. So with my experience so far in like 14 years of exposure, I have hired few interns who are still with the same organization from last 13 years, from last 12 years, 10 years, you know, that's a kind of a journey, and they haven't really explored any other opportunities outside. Because I think if you give a right direction, right work, proper mentoring, and a good quality of work, they tend to deliver with an innovative way altogether. So that is something which is quite unique. That is the only reason industry have already explored this particular opportunity, that it is good to expand in our University Connect for multiple reasons. One is specifically for having a stronger baseline. Second, it is a low compensation, because usually we tend to give a little lesser salary than our lateral hires, which save a lot of cost to us. Third, they bring a lot of fresh energy and innovative ideas, which in turn gives us an new, fresh, agile way of working all together in that organization. So I think these are a few core areas, and you know, they are coming with a clear, open, keen learning attitude. So you can mold them as per our requirement. They're not coming with a mindset that yes, I've done this particular thing in this particular manner only. So they are free to modify as per requirement, and that is something which is unique, which they bring it onto the table. And making them learn any technology, any tool, any function, it's not difficult, because they are there to help you channelize as per your business needs. So I think that's the best thing which industry have already explored. And I would say almost every organization have a key force of hiring university grads right now as compared to consultants, because consultants do bring in a quick return, but that has a lot of cost involved into this particular one, which is a short-term goal as well. It does not give a long-term benefit to the organization.
Anshu, if I just may add and dovetail on what Monica said. So the previous question about planning and budgeting ties very closely with the campus strategy, because campus life cycle is quite longer, and the firms which have very deep understanding of how talent moves in the market would have a very robust strategy for campus. Because otherwise your lateral hiring is you open the rec, you go out in the market, hire consultant, you look for Naukri or other portals, you put in people. But if you have a strategy in place, you'll be able to leverage campus that more efficiently. And as Monica said, during my experience, I've seen that when you hire freshers, it's easier to channelize them, leverage them, and mold them in the culture as well as the technologies and the functions that you're dealing in.
Thank you, Khalid, for bringing this wonderful point. There is one more important point of why we hire campus graduates now in this generation is basically with our diversity and inclusion as a key portfolio of hiring these talent. You cannot hire specifics for lateral hiring. You can't say that I need to hire a male or a female for this particular position, but while hiring a university grads, you can take that decision, and that is a good input to have your diversity portfolio stronger in the organization from a campus way.
Yeah, thank you so much, for throwing some lights, and, very well said, Monica and Khalid, because, as you talked about campus hiring and, the candidates are fresher and they are very keen to become a better professional, and they're very keen to learn new things in an organization and to see that how things are shaping up. So I think it is, important for them, to spend some time in an organization to see, what technologies an organization is using, which organization they are, joining. And as you correctly talked about on the cost part, in terms of their learnings and everything. So of course, these are the key elements, to attract campus hiring. So with that, when it comes to campus hiring, so now the next question comes to my mind, that which is again related to employer or organization branding, which is more important, because people have their list wherein they want to join an organization which is a very good organization, like to give an example, like maybe Ericsson or Google. So they have their in their mind that they want to join this organization and want to be a part of those organizations. So with that, I would like to ask from Monica. Yeah, hi, good morning, Monica. So I just want to know that here, that what do you think, and employer branding is important, and what are the ways of doing it?
Sure, Pranshu. First of all, thank you very much for having me here. It's really a pleasure. And this is a wonderful question. I hope I'm able to do justice to this. So first of all, building a strong employment brand is a long-term strategy and can provide a steady flow of applicants. I'd say most of the other activities that we do under talent acquisition are short duration. They give solutions in a for a shorter period. But if you wish to have a continuous flow of applicants, people being interested in your organization, they liking your organization, then you have to focus on the branding of the nature of employment that you're doing. So an employment brand creates an image that makes people want to work for the organization. Employment branding is essential to lure the best talent. It is the process of positioning the organization as an employer of choice in the labor market. All these things are very important. So let me take an example. So unlike most of us, there are organizations like UN type of international humanitarian organizations, which would have never experienced difficulties in recruiting skilled talent. Why does this non-governmental organization enjoy such a recruiting success? Any ideas? In all likelihood, people are attracted to work for the organization because of its employment brand. You know, the kind of employment brand that it has created, candidates and employees recognize the importance of the organization's mission for the world and for their own families. So that's why they may be interested. Let's take another example. So a slogan, let's do it. What does it remind you of? I'm sure 100% of the population out here would say, sorry, I meant to say, just do it. So this slogan would remind everybody of Nike. And of course, why not? So Nike as an employment brand is into worldwide marketing and sales of footwear, apparel, equipment, accessories, and services. Like Nike, it is important that the brand slogan, and the business, all the three are directly related. They are talking to one another, and the target audience should be able to relate to them and take a favorable action. This is briefly about what I can explain in about branding within the limited time that I have. Now moving on to the other thing, how branding can be done. So there are some steps which have taken in a proper manner. We can be sure that we are doing justice to the employment branding that we have taken up in our hands. First of all, we have to set goals. We have to decide what we are here to achieve at the end of the whole thing. Okay, now once we know, we are clear what is the end goal we are working towards, we have to identify the characteristics of the individuals we wish to work with us in meeting this goal. So in other words, I can say that we need to identify the candidate's persona. Okay, once this is done, then we have to focus on employee value proposition. Now, what is that? Employee value proposition is an amalgamation of what a candidate has to offer to an organization and what the organization can offer in return to that. In other words, I can also say that it is the unique set of benefits which an organization offers to a candidate or an employee in return to the skills, capabilities, and experience that the individual is bringing to the table to an employer. Okay, so the EVP needs to be identified and defined. And then once this is done, we have to identify what are the various communication channels we are going to use to promote the EVP of the organization. We will also talk later on also that EVP is not only the hiring stage activity. It has to start from the first stage, which means creating the awareness of the brand to the hiring stage. And then even during the tenure of the employee, we have to make sure that we are through and through communicating EVP. Now, whatever activities we have done so far, they need to be measured also. So we have to measure the results of all the efforts that we are putting in. So this is a quick process that I could share with you. Now, EVP can be an informal EVP also, which means that the organization took no efforts in communicating the EVP or even thinking about EVP. But even then the EVP exists and it is then left to the perception of the people who are coming in connect, say the current employees or the candidates or the ex-employees, whatever they feel is the EVP, they would communicate that. So it is better that one should focus on building a formal brand and communicate the EVP formally, because this is about spreading the message that we want to convey to everybody. Okay, and a small part, but interestingly, in some of the cultures, it is important to, flash your brand or communicate your brand even to the parents of the candidates whom we are wanting to consider. Because in some of these situations, parents may have a strong influence on the decision about the employment or the career choices that the person is going to make. So the employer's branding communication approach needs to be holistic and addressed to all the potential audiences. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Monica. Thank you so much, for, sharing your experience and throwing some lights on this piece, because this is, I believe, very important piece, in terms of the employer branding and all. And as a candidate, of course, it comes to our mind as we say that if I have a list of 2 or 3 companies where in future I wish to join an organization and really want to be a part of that organization who is very transparent and, is very employee centric, then it, makes, makes it can makes me feel good. So, the other thing I, look at, because there are a lot of things wherein we have seen that employee branding is done, that we have, strategies in place, roles, we have done a budgeting and everything, but still we have seen at the date of joining that people, do exit at that point of time, right? So I would like to ask this question, from Khalid, that what do you think? Because as I said, that each and everything is done, from our end, but still there are candidates, who don't turn up at the day of joining. Then, recruiter, do a lot of follow-ups that what went wrong, that you were supposed to join and all. Then, what do you think that what should we do at that point of time?
It's the most dreaded situation and the question as well, Pranshu. So thank you for sharing it with me. I'll do my best to provide a response, but I think it's another pandemic which is impacting talent acquisition. It's not a problem which is faced by a certain set of organization. I think the variance of the problem, is proportionate to the brand pool that you have. And we spoke about EVP, Monica highlighted on that, and we've been in the chat as well talking about talent attraction. But this reality exists because at a certain point in time, all of us have contributed to it. All of us have hired people who had a couple of offers in their hand, and we are trying to match those offers. Now it's a circle, right? So if you do that with 100 candidates, you're gonna get 100 candidates who are gonna do that to you. So there could be one. I can look at a very socialistic response here. All the firms come together and say they're not going to hire people who have offers, but I don't think that's going to happen. You can't fight the battle of compensation because that's what the candidates are looking at. I think what talent acquisition can do is to ensure that once you have given an offer to the candidate, stay in touch with them, highlight what the organization brings to them apart from the compensation, because compensation as a number is not the only thing that you get from a firm. You get career, you get learning opportunities, you can talk about the culture that you have. It's all about sustaining that relationship. It's, if you just look at it, any relationship for that matter, you go for an arranged marriage, as we go for a roka, you don't stop after roka and you say, listen, I'm going to meet you at the wedding reception, right? You continuously engage with the other party. I think that's what is needed. And that relationship needs to be built so that you continuously attract them. I was just reading the chat. I think Pragya wrote that, your employees are your brand ambassadors. So if your employees are out there speaking good about your brand, chances are this pandemic will not hit you as much because your immunity will be much more.
Oh, thank you so much.
I wanted to add here, since you speak about the relationship of the marriage, that's a very valid one. So with this, it comes to my mind about the candidate engagement, which starts initially when they've seen the posting at your company website or onto the social media, and when they applied, and how exactly their emotions are triggered at each stage. how valid the talent acquisition, the recruitment team kept on getting engaged with them at every stage. What about the hiring manager? Few practices that we can do to avoid this kind of a backfall. Like I'll cite one of my examples. In one of the organizations, I was interviewed in the month of Feb, and I joined them in the month of May. So during these 4 months, they kept on getting engaged with me at every week. Okay, specifically the one who was I was going to report. And when they have to make any major decisions in terms of buying a building for their organization, they took me on. And even they happened to send me a bouquet of flowers on my birthday, which my current organization did not happen to remember. So that kept me engaged even for the entire 4 months and made sure that I'm going ahead and joining them instead of having two more offers in hand at the same time. So I believe this could be strategy, and this is not going to cost much to the organization. If we are asking them to meet the team before their onboarding only, maybe arranging a lunch or a dinner as per the availability of the person and the team, this can go a greater way. And if there are any last minute hiccups also, that person will be transparent to the talent acquisition team talking about the same.
I'll
I
just
agree,
put
Pragya.
it, sorry, go ahead, Khalid. Yeah,
No, I
please.
was just agreeing with what Pragya said because at the end of the day, it doesn't cost a lot from a money perspective, but it's an investment of time. And I think that's what really gets valued at the end of the day. So your hiring managers getting in touch with the candidates, talking to them, and it's just not about talking to them, but sharing what is material information. There could be a client win, there could be a ramp up. There's so many things which happen in business, and I think it's just a flow of conversation which allows people to stay connected mentally because as you said, your first initial ROCA or offer letter, and then at the time of wedding, there's a lot of gap. And generally, when you see lateral, it's 2 to 3 months. You can't leave the candidate wondering and pondering what's going to happen, and then in the meantime, go out and find someone else. Go ahead, Monica.
I was just trying to collate what Pragya mentioned that, and you mentioned in terms of, I think it's another journey when a female conceives. So we do not take care of our baby once the baby is born after 9 months. We start taking care of it when it is being conceived all together. It's a 9 months journey, which that mother takes care. That's the same thing which a talent acquisition team has to take care. The moment the person is actually looking at their website, what time are we reviewing their profile? How are we responding to their questions? And making sure they connect with everything. And the most important thing, you need to build that rapport with that individual, that the moment that person is not joining, you will be the first ear to hear this particular information rather than coming at a last minute surprise. So build that relationship that even the person should feel like that, yes, I have to inform this person definitely if I'm making any change in the career. Another major thing it is important is like, it should be an opportunity lost for that particular person, not for us. So build that brand all together, which is where they feel like that, okay, if I miss this opportunity, I'm going to miss a very good organization to work with. And that can only be represented by talent acquisition team. So don't think it's an administrative task. It is a task which will help you close your KPIs and the KRAs on time.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone for sharing your thoughts. So, to summarize this, as Khalid, you clearly mentioned about the employee, bonding and everything, which is really very important. And as Pragya, touched upon the employee emotions. So this is also very important as, the moment I look at, position is open in any of the portal like Naukri, and also I'm happy. And I do see that, this is quite relevant to my experience, and I look forward to join that organization. But later on, when I apply for that particular position, I do see that there is no response from the recruiter, or maybe then, then I, start thinking, then why I am not getting any response, whether, that position is filled, because I don't know as a candidate. So, employee, candidate emotion, plays a very important role here. And when I, everything goes fine, and I join that organization, so I have a set of expectation from the organization, as well as an organization. They do expect a lot of things from me, as an employee, that how would I perform, whether I would be able to work as per their requirements. So this is something we need to take care of. So very well summarized, very well touched upon. Thank you so much, Monica, Pragya, and Khalid, for that. So I would like to ask this question from Pragya. As initially we talked about recruitment and talent acquisition, we talked about some recruitment plans. So if you can just throw some lights and share your experience, that what do you think that what recruitment plan HR should have in place once you see the position is open in an organization?
Thanks for bringing this amazing question to me, and I'm more than happy to answer it. So, before we start even going ahead and discussing that this is what a person has to look like, why don't we sit back and prepare a plan for the same? And the planning will include a lot of things. It could be one of the strategies that you need to go ahead and hire. So, the first one could be how to determine your recruitment goals. Okay, so recruitment goals will be the attracting a higher standard of the candidate, and how we can do that. We have spoken about in doing the employer branding for the same. Any candidate who has a skills currently in the organization or does not happen to have, how can we leverage it along with the learning and the development team? Promoting your company as a dynamic place where people would want to work. So as we mentioned it clearly, that our employees are our greatest brand ambassadors. So not only the one who got interviewed, even if someone is not shortlisted into your company, it won't go ahead and do any harm, giving them appropriate feedback, referring them to somewhere else where they can get a better opportunity. And obviously, they could be one of the brand ambassadors. Any employee who exits and you have given them a respect starting from their exiting date to the FNF sinks and all. They could be the another brand ambassadors, and you can definitely go ahead and ask them that if they can refer it in someone from their network. So these are some of the strategies that can be added into the recruitment plan. And your job description needs to be very much crisp and clear. Another best way to bring across a job description, like if I have to look at as a candidate, I would not go ahead and read the long, lengthy job descriptions mentioned. I would like someone to talk about it, maybe a 1 or 2 minute video from the existing team, someone who is already working into that role, why he or she is a part of that organization, why he or she is a part of that team, what they enjoy most about their career growth, what they really wanted to move ahead into the ladder of the succession planning into that organization. So if these things are clearly jotted down, clearly mentioned into the recruitment plan, obviously our talent acquisition team will be in a much better place to go ahead and find out and source those kind of candidates.
Sure. Thank you so much, Pragya. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. I think, that you have summarized in such a way, I think as a talent acquisition that we have to be, open-minded, and as you correctly talked about that we should share the feedback with a candidate, because it is very important for a candidate, because most of the time it happens when a candidate appears in an interview and he or she does not even get a response from the recruiters. They chase, they keep calling to the recruiter just to get know that what is the feedback, whether I am selected or rejected. So even if a candidate is rejected, so it's a duty or a job of a recruiter to let that person know that if a candidate is rejected, that why he was rejected. So that, because I try to give an example, because I take it as an area of improvement. If something went wrong in my interview, so I would work on it, and then I prepare myself for future. So this is the way. So thank you so much for sharing your thoughts on this. So I believe that in future, as in the ways of working also, a lot of things would change in recruitment and talent acquisition. So thank you very much. So as talked about pre and post pandemic, and in the ways of working, so I would like to again go for a poll and a survey. And here I would like to ask from my audience that what is their opinion and what do they think about that. In Is there any change in the ways of working in recruitment, in the in pre and post pandemic? So again, you can go to www.menti.com, and so I will share the code with you. I think you won't be able to copy it from the chat. So the code will be 3621 4443. Okay, so as we can see in our screen, so as of now we have got responses. So most of the people says yes. So they see a lot of changes in the recruitment post pandemic.
This was a no-brainer, Pranju. We knew this would be all yes.
Yeah. Oh. Okay. So I believe that every HR professional in recruitment feels that there is a lot of change in the recruitment post-pandemic. So here, I would like to ask this question from Monica Marwa, as we talked about that, what all that do you, as you possess a lot of experience in this domain, you have expertise, that what do you think, and is there any change in other ways of working in the HR, pre and post pandemic? If you can throw some lights on it.
If I understand, so most of the audience are clear, they know it. I do not think that I have to answer this question because they know the things have got changed, they have accepted it. I would really want to understand from them what changes they are relating it to it, because recruitment process remains same, to be honest. It's not changing drastically. The change is our attitude, the change is our way of dealing with our situation. Our hiring process was physical, now it has moved to virtual. So during virtual, what exactly are we looking forward? Is it the same sort of questions we are looking at? It is more emotional at this point of time. We give them a freedom, because I think there is one change which has definitely happened is there are a lot of people who are introvert. Okay, and the feedback which I gauged out of them was during this pandemic, they have cracked a lot of good opportunities in the market, because they are now sitting in the comfort zone of their house, sitting in front of their laptops, and they are able to crack interviews as quicker as possible as compared to giving an interview in person altogether. So that's a change from a candidate perspective, which I've realized. But from our hiring perspective, what I am realizing is use of technology is something which we have adapted quickly, making sure that we are able to respond to our candidates on time automatically. Yes, with the technology, there are a lot of benefits in terms of using AI and ATS tool, where we are able to give them a communication through system. That's working fine. It just takes a minute to send an email, because usually we spend a lot of time in our office when we used to conduct personal interviews altogether. We used to move from one meeting room to another room and planning it up across, coordinating with the hiring manager just to make sure that they enter the room on time and everything, so that everything is being saved at this point of time. A pop-up on the laptop gives a lot of reminder, rather than we giving a call to our hiring managers, please take this interview on time, and the candidate is waiting. Those are the timings which are definitely helping us all together. But only thing is, like, our adaptation to change has got changed. So that is something which is a beautiful journey which each one of us are living right now, that we are open to this evolving setup. Same is with candidate and for hiring managers. So I think that blend is working better for us, and that's the change which I'm accepting at this point of time. But our thorough recruitment process remains the same. It is coming from core of your heart. You understand the job profile better. You are able to explain it properly to the candidates, and you're able to connect with them to the right hiring manager. That does not change ever.
Thank you so much, Monica, for sharing your experience, and, very well, said and summarized. Okay. So, with this, we talked about, different kind of sourcing and all, because as a candidate and as an organization, as a recruiter, we have different sourcing methods, and we, reach out to our social medias, we reach out to consultants, we go for, campus hiring and all. So here, I would like to ask, this question from Khalid and Monica Lohani both, that if you can share your, experience and thoughts on this, that what do you think, that what are the various means of sourcing, wherein we can target, to hire the right candidate in an organization, and how can we leverage social media platform for this hiring?
Khalid, can I go ahead?
Sure, Monica.
Okay, so I'd like to break the sourcing to target the right candidate into two parts. The first one being internal sources, and that's simple. That covers transfers, promotions, internal job postings, and the absorption of trainees who come there to work with you for a shorter duration. You find the right talent, you decide to stick around with them. And they also likewise, earlier we talked about having freshers. So it's a similar thing, working with trainees and continuing to work with them because you have invested a lot in them. The next one is external sources. Now, external sources, most of them are already known to all of us. They are campus placements. Monica talked a lot about that. Then we have job portals like Naukri, Indeed, LinkedIn, Monster, Glassdoor, Shine, so on and so forth. There's an endless list of the job portals. Then the placement firms, the labor contractors. Then we have headhunting happening. So what is headhunting? It is an executive search or exclusive candidates for top talent or leadership roles. So it's a very selective hiring, and it needs to be done with a more matured mindset. Then we have companies career side. Now lately we have seen a trend that instead of people approaching the job portals or the placement firms, they are focusing more on companies career side. And that's also because the companies are focusing more on picking up talent from there, because because that makes better sense for everybody. Then we have walk-ins happening, we have employment exchanges, we have press advertisements, we have references and recommendations, which is again a very strong one, though the percentage of people getting hired through these, it will always be a lesser count, but they are more dependable, because the person referring them is, that person's reputation is also at a stake. So they will make sure that they are recommending or referencing the right people. Now, finally, we have social media, which I'd like to expand a little more, because that's an important part of our today's conversation also. So I'd say HR is confronting many of these challenges, which, I mean, in fact, Monica also said a similar thing, that our challenges are not very different from what those were, say, about 20 years back from now. The recruiting challenges more or less remain the same. Now, what has changed is the way the HR practitioners are approaching to handle them. So while the organizations continue to employ the traditional recruiting methods, which are like job portals and referrals, advertising, and agencies, they are increasingly supplementing them with the social media techniques. The decision is no longer whether or not to be present on social media platforms. It is about how best we can leverage them. So the sooner we wake up, the better it is, because that's what is happening in today's time. So the EVP, that the employment branding image passes on through social media platforms, helps increase an organization's attractiveness towards its target candidates. The most important aspect is to have a coherent message. Very important, huh? This is in order to have we have to have a coherent message going out through various channels and various sources and at various touch points, regardless of what platform you're using. The key to a successful message is to ensure that the EVP message reflects the values of the organization as an employer strives to present. That's very important. And finally, I'd say that the organizations need to assess two things. The first one is what users say about the organization across the web. So we have Glassdoor and LinkedIn, and there are various sources where the candidates can comment, or the existing employee strength can comment about your organization. Facebook can also be one of them. The other one is, which needs to be assessed, is where the organization's audiences and how they use social media. We have to identify this and we have to make the best use of it. Thank you.
I really don't have anything to add. I think Monica summed it up really well, every aspect of it, which makes perfect sense. In fact, the social media aspect is very important. Most of the time we assume social media is for dissemination of information, but for organization, it's also accumulation of information. There's so much that you can learn about yourself when you go to places like Glassdoor or any other platform for that matter and do a search. While you may be an ostrich, put your head in the sand and don't want to see it, but that information exists for your potential candidates to see. So my recommendation to all the organization is to pay very focused attention on what's being written and talked about in the market, because you can take actions, tangible actions, informed actions on it, rather than staying unaware of it, because that does more damage. But Monica, thank you for covering everything. I think it was complete.
Thank you, Khalid. You also added very important point.
Yeah. So thank you, Monica. Thank you, Khalid, for sharing your thoughts on this, because this is, very important element, and you covered it up, covered up very well. So, with this, a next question, comes to my mind, which is related to, offer to a joining ratio. And this is something, I would like to ask this question, from Pragya and Monica Marwa. If you can just throw some lights and, basis your experience, that what are the ways to increase the offer to joining ratio?
Pragya, after you.
Sure, Monica. Okay. Well, we discussed this point earlier also. So, candidate engagement was one of the points that was covered earlier. The first and foremost point comes across as a compensation. So, could be a possibility due to the pandemic, what few of the organizations and the industries have started doing. So, let's say someone has a gap of 3 months, 6 months, or a year. Okay. And they have not been working across into that duration, but you know their past experiences that they have been a best skill set and the competences required for this particular role. But still, we are trying to leverage that opportunity as an organization, as an HR person, and trying to save some money onto that part. That will actually not work out. Okay, and I'll tell you the reason why. They might go ahead and join your organization at this point in time, considering the fact they're not getting much of the job opportunities. But as soon as they'll keep hunting, they'll keep searching the best possible opportunity in terms of the compensation, because at the end of the day, every person has to manage their expenses too. So that's the practical approach. And as soon as they happen to get it, they will be leaving the organization. So your recruitment will again go back to the scratch. So whatever the investment you have done in terms of getting them trained for a particular job role will be all waste. So instead of going ahead and trying to save every penny of the organization, understand the person who is going to be a part of an organization too. Understand why he or she would go ahead and join at a lesser salary than what they were earlier getting. Would you do that on your own? No, you won't. So you can't expect the other person also to do that. Second crucial points comes across the right timing. Though your interview started quite earlier than the other companies that the person has approached to, but you took a 1 month time to fill a basic executive level kind of a role. And the other companies, they have done the interview sessions, everything within 2 days and given them an offer. Why do you expect after a month the same person would be available for your company to go ahead and work out? They won't. And the candidate engagement obviously plays a vital role into it. How the hiring managers are engaged, how the recruitment team is engaged. Are they even introduced to the some events within the organization virtually or on site, anything, whatever is the feasibility. So this speaks a lot about the organization. And I think I'll sum up it up like this. Monica, any points to add?
Thank you, Pragya. I know you covered beautifully and all the points are covered. The only thing which I'll say, it's like the gap is not matching the right candidate to the right job. So assessing the kind of skill, what we are looking out for, or a role we are looking out for, and matching it to the right candidate is the first parameter for us to make sure that we get this right person coming on board. Explaining the futuristic role of that position to the candidate is also a key of responsibility of TA members at this point of time. Another thing is like, which I will say, giving them a milestone growth. So how it is happening. So making sure that your hiring managers are trained enough to explain the job well with to the candidates and give them an experience during the interviews. That plays a very critical role. As and when, when you always go back to your candidate after the interview and take a feedback. How was your interaction with the hiring manager? Did they explain the job well to you? If not, set up another call with them. That's their responsibility to ensure that is being done. And that's, if that particular role is done 100% correctly, I can assure you 80% of the task of a recruiter is done, because the hiring manager had to ensure that they sell their opportunity clearly to the candidate. And that's where the core responsibility. We do a lot of branding initiative, we do a lot of fancy stuff, but till the time job is not correct for that candidate, the person will not join us. Or if they join us, they will not stay here for a longer duration. So matching the right candidate to the right job, I would say, is the key responsibility and key parameter for us to bridge that gap of making them on board. Back to Pranshu.
Thank you, Pragya. Thank you, Monica, for sharing, just a wonderful thought. Because I think you are, absolutely right, because this is something that we have to, as a hiring manager, that we have to be transparent and all. And of course, if I'm not able to, able to convey the same to my recruiter, so I think I won't be able to have a correct person, correct candidate on board. And then maybe this could lead that person could leave the organization soon. So again, there are a lot of things which we have to take care, keep this in our mind before hiring, and that we have to be very, very transparent. So thank you so much for sharing your thoughts on this. So another question I have, and this is for all our speaker, wherein which you can actually basis your experience in an organization, because you people are working in different organizations. So the question I just want to ask from all of you is that what do you think, that what are the new virtual ways and best practices you follow to hire the right candidate in your industry, as well as, globally. So maybe we can start with Monica Marva first.
When you say having a global presence, if I need to understand your question again, Pranshu?
Like, it's basically that, what best practices you follow, in your organization, to hire a right candidate, because, different organizations, be it IT, be it insurance sector. So, companies follow different, strategies, policies and all. So, what do you think that, what are the best practices you have followed so far?
So it's ensuring that the communication of our job description is done properly all across. We make sure that all our employees get a clear visibility of our open position. Wherever it is available, there has to be a clear process being defined. Second, it is important the job description has to be way too clearer. You cannot have boring and old type of job descriptions available for them where they keep on struggling what exactly you're looking out with a fancy English words altogether, but that does not make any connect to the right job opportunity. So having that clear skill set allocation is very important. Another thing is like, you need to really partner with the hiring managers. When you are branding the opportunities out in the social media, you need to ensure that you force your hiring managers to also post it in their profiles on their LinkedIn pages and other social media pages, because that's where they have a connection of a people who are into the similar stream altogether. So that is the reason we'll be able to attract the right candidate from there. So these are the few things which I think is important, plus having a clear understanding yourself. So as a recruiter should definitely know what kind of a profile we are hiring. What is it that job needs to be performed? It's not a skill set search we should be focusing on. More about job profile is something which we should be very clear and candid about. Over to my peers.
So I think I'll just add to what Monica said. I think most of the things are covered, but understanding the role by the recruiter is very relevant, because most of the time we take the mandate and we start running with it without realizing what are the specifics that are needed. Now, there could be a combination where you need something 60%, the other thing 40%. And if you're looking for that A skill as 75%, your submissions would always be wrong. So I think that deeper understanding is really needed. The change which has happened now is, of course, as Monica said earlier, the fundamentals remain the same. The modes have changed. So now it's more virtual, where things are happening online, which is good and bad in its own way, the way we want to see it. And Monica would remember we had a long conversation about this earlier in one of the panel discussions. So your processes have changed, and your teams need to understand how to leverage those processes, whether it's recruiter or hiring managers, because video interviews is not something everybody is very comfortable with. And sometimes judgments are made based on the bandwidth the person has at their end, that this person is not good. So I think that sensitization is very important. And at the same time, what technology has done is it's more opened more avenues for the organizations to tap into. But at the same time, it has opened more avenues for the candidates as well. So if I'm a candidate, I can attend an interview for a Chennai location and for Bangalore location same day, wherein earlier I had to travel to those locations. So we need to be careful of those aspects as well.
So since we talked about virtual hiring being the current scenario, I'd like to point out that it's a sensitive situation for the candidates also at this point of time, because they just don't get to see the office environment. They don't see the real people whom they are going to work with. So how about having a welcome video, a small one, or a virtual office tour, say a little before the virtual interview or a little after the virtual interview? It may be a little too much to ask for to begin with, but once these things are there in place, then it is just a copy and paste. It's going to be very simple, but it is going to create a very good impression on the candidates whom you are targeting, and I'm sure they would love it.
Thanks, Monica, for bringing this perspective to it. So another perspective that I would like to add will be, once we have done all these things into the practice, we have to even understand that, let's say, if we are making a little bit alterations in terms of the job specifications, are we communicating earlier before even that person is presented to the hiring manager? Are we making that person preparing for the complete interview process, that these could be the possible questions that might be asked, these could be the possible topics that can be gone ahead and discussed with you? And these are our internal stakeholders, and maybe you can have a better set of the questions to be asked to the hiring manager, that what my role will involve, how exactly they see my career growth into the organization, do they have a clarity about their career goals. So this goes long way. Once the interviews are done, from the company perspective comes across the employee's perspective as well, the candidate perspective as well. If they are not satisfied with the questions, they are not satisfied the way they are handled, obviously offer to joining ratio will again dip down. Another thing that the company has to take care of in terms of the sourcing part, what platform they are good at. If they're good at LinkedIn, let them do the postings, tagging the entire company organizations. Okay, maybe asking the within the employees to reshare the post to get a better leverage, adding proper hashtags. I have experimented this into my current organization, so that's why I'm telling that. Previously, if my videos or the post does not happen to have more than even 1,000 views, now it goes beyond 4,000, 5,000, and so on. Okay, so this could be the another ways where we can go ahead and leverage the social media hiring.
So thank you so much, everyone. For throwing some lights and sharing your experience on this one, because I'm sure audience had similar questions, and I hope we are able to answer. All right, so thank you so much, everyone, for your time on this. So now we have a surprise package for our audience, wherein we will break this session into the breakout zone, and all the audience will be with the respective panelists. So if you still have any questions, doubts, you can ask them. So you will have 10 minutes, and once you are into your break zone and all, so later on, please remember that do not exit from the meeting. Please exit from the breakout zone. So this is important, because once you are leaving, once you click on the meeting, then you will be leaving from the meeting. So please keep this in mind. So we'll be back, and I will connect with you after 10 minutes. So hello, everyone, I am back. So I think all the audience are with their respective panelists, and they whatever the questions they have, and hope they would get the answers of all the questions. Hello, guys. I think now all the audience are with their panelists. So if they still have any question or doubt, so definitely they would get the answer. And I believe that we had this session was very interactive, where we got to know a lot of things about talent acquisition and recruitment piece, to how to do a budgeting and planning, which is more important, hiring a right candidate in an organization. How can a hiring manager be a transparent with the recruiter in terms of the job description as Pragya and Monica talked about it, that it should be short and crisp, and it should not be with some fancy language or hi-fi English. Then this, it makes a sense. And again, if we are actually attracting a right candidate in an organization, then again we have to understand the candidate emotions, which is important. We have to share the feedback every now and then. We need to be connect with our candidates, so that they are sure that that they have already appeared in an interview with an organization. So, and organization is actually taking it up, and with the candidate, and sharing feedback and everything with them on time to time basis. Once the candidate joins the organization, just give a warm welcome, and and familiar with the policies and other things, which is more important. Give some time to the candidate to settle down in an organization, understand the process, technologies, which is more important. And I believe if everything goes well, and and a candidate is able to connect with an organization, so definitely he or she would be there, would stay for a long term in an organization. We talked about employee branding, which is more important. So if a candidate is happy in an organization, so we would definitely talk about it with their colleagues, with their friends, family, and that how is he enjoying, whether he is happy in an organization or not, how is he enjoying, whether he is getting, all the facilities, whether he is getting a lot of cooperation from his colleagues, from his superiors, and each and everything is transparent. So with that, I think we have got lot of answers. As I also had few doubts on few of the questions, which has been cleared. And I hope that audience, if you had any question, it has been clear. And another thing I would like to talk about is that normally in HR, in recruitment, which we have seen that that we are worried about that why employee leave the organization in 1 year. So now this is very, very important aspect and metrics we should talk about it, in terms that what we should do to retain our candidates in an organization, because they have been working with you. But what if they leave you know in less than 1 year? How you can actually control this, and what are the possible reasons for that why these employees are leaving? So as I can see, as of, and this is my experience, if I talk about, so this is considered as a employee who leaves the organization within a year. Maybe one reason I can see that they have different jobs in their hand. And most of the time, most if they are a fresher, so they just join the organization just to understand that how is organization working, but they have time of 2 to 3 months, they leave the organization and join another. So this is one of the reason. Most of the time we do not get any concrete responses from our employees when they leave the organization in 1 year. So here I believe that recruiter has to play a very vital role to be transparent with a employee who is leaving an organization, in terms asking a feedback that what went wrong, why you were not happy in an organization, what forced you to resign. So basis the answers you get, then you do a brainstorming or analysis and identify the potential reason for that, so that you are prepared for future to hire a candidate, right candidate. So because this category is also called as a failed hires in an organization, which I believe as a recruitment team should do a analysis on the people who have already left in 1 year. Because as an organization, if I look at, you have already spent a lot of time, you have spent a lot of money bringing that candidate into the organization. But if that person leaves the organization in less than 1 year, then again you have to start this particular process from the scratch. So I think it's a two-way process, where as a candidate or as an employee, it's my responsibility, and as an organization, as a recruiter, it's your responsibility as well, to uh, work on these points as well. A lot of things I would like to talk about when, so I think analysis and the data plays a very important role. So if you talk about the data management, so you should have clean data with you, in terms of wherein you're talking about you know whenever you can do some analysis and provide insights that to see that how recruitment is happening, whether you are able to get the person on board within the turnaround time. Because again, each and every position is very critical, and there is a turnaround time to it. How we are actually approaching to the candidate, what all best practices which you are following, are we actually keeping those things in our mind, which we have done in the past which went wrong. So that as a team also in an organization we have to do brainstorming, try to identify these cause, these potential reasons, and then implement it and improve our processes in and day out, because this is very, very important for a recruitment point of view as well. From a candidate point of view, perspective, if I talk about that, we actually cannot read the mind, but yes, but once the candidate joins the organization, becomes your employee, then, it takes, then again, it's your, responsibility, just to interact with the candidate. You can have a, you can start with some, onboarding surveys. You can launch, a 1 month or 2 months completion survey with the new hires to have a pulse check that how whether they are enjoying in the organization, are they happy with the roles and responsibilities. And another which is important, whether the roles and responsibilities which was defined in the job description is the same which that employee is doing in an organization. So these are the aspects and elements which we need to take care of. From a recruiter point of view, there are other metrics too which you need to take care. So, just to summarize that, as a recruiter, there are a lot of things in terms of the analyze the data, so that we have to do it.
Before closing, I would like to call Mr. Govind Singh Negi to please give a vote of thanks to our audience.
Thank you, Payal and Pranshu for organizing and moderating it so well. I must say that, wow, that was really an awesome conversation, both when we were not in the breakout zone and I was in the breakout zone, especially asked to be with Monica Marwa because I had questions on a lot of apprentice stuff like that. So I think I got a good consulting without paying any fee for that. So that's a good one for me. The second is, I think right now, one thing I've observed that when we were in COVID, people were apprehensive about the market, but today looks like the market has come up like strongly for candidates. There are a lot of job opportunities, especially in the area where you need people who are more expertise in their area, and there is a crunch in the market. IT, ITES all struggling with hiring people at this point in time. So this kind of conversation is really a relief, where we can understand that what are the various ways we can make an impact. I love the concept of employer branding, EVPs, candidate experience. Apprentice is always top of the mind of people because it comes and brings a lot of value. So I think altogether, it was such an awesome package. And I'm sure that if I felt that I learned a lot of things, despite of being in the industry for 21 years, I'm sure others who were on the call are going to say the same. So I would like to thank all our speakers, Khalid, thank you very much, Monica Marwa, Monica Lohani, and Pragya for such an awesome, interesting session. What I liked about it is that I think we were up to the point, we brought a lot of value and key points to the conversation in such a short span of time. So once again, thank you. On behalf of everybody on the call, I think it was worth spending 1.5 hours on this Saturday. Thanks. Over to you.